What if I told you that Hamilton's accident in free practice was not his fault, but the symptom of an even more serious problem at Ferrari? Today we are going to reveal everything that really happened at Abu Dhabi 2025 and why it could mark the beginning of the end for Lewis with the Cavallino. The 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix not only represented the end of the season, but the last opportunity for Lewis Hamilton to close his challenging first year with Ferrari with dignity. The arrival of the seven-time world champion in Maranello was greeted with a mixture of expectation and hope. The dream of many was to see Lewis return the Scuderia to the top, but the reality was very different. Since its debut, the SF25 showed worrying signs: inconsistencies in race pace, excessive sensitivity to crosswinds, and a dangerous tendency toward aerodynamic bounce. However, nothing could prepare the team for what would happen that Saturday at Yas Marina. From the beginning of the third free practice, the atmosphere was charged with tension. Hamilton had been working hard with his engineers to find a balance that would allow him to attack the mid-range curbs without compromising the car's stability. During the initial laps, the data was promising, but there was still an uneasy feeling in the pit. Engineers were noticing slight anomalies in the front axle downforce readings. Even so, the team cleared Hamilton to complete his qualifying simulation stint. That's when disaster struck. In turn 9, one of the fastest and most challenging on the circuit, Hamilton's Ferrari suddenly lost control. There was no correction, there was no room for reaction. The car swerved violently towards the barriers, destroying the front axle and leaving everyone frozen. A few seconds later, the radio exploded with a phrase that would mark the rest of the weekend: "Something buckled at the front and snapped the rear." That statement, brief but devastating, not only evidenced a technical failure, but also an emotional fracture in the pilot's confidence. The expression "buckled" suggests a loss of structural integrity. It was not a simple touch, nor a piloting error. The SF25's chassis collapsed abnormally under aerodynamic loading, creating a domino effect that compromised the rear. This would explain the loss of support in milliseconds, with no time for reaction or warning. The scene was made even more dramatic by the subsequent silence on the radio. The team, upon receiving the car in the garage, did not take long to dismantle the entire front part. The cameras captured tense faces, mechanics working with surgical speed, and a clear order from technical management: absolute silence before the press. Meanwhile, social networks and technical forums exploded. In less than an hour, experts began sharing frame-by-frame analysis of the accident. Many agreed there were no signs of understeer or pre-oversteer. The car simply disconnected from the ground. The most worrying thing was that this type of failure is not usually spontaneous. It could be a symptom of fatigue in the monohull, improper flexing in the front wing, or even a hidden failure in the front suspension anchor points. Either of these options pointed to a serious design or manufacturing problem. For Ferrari, this episode revived ghosts of the past. Since 2019, the team had been working to regain its status as a technical reference, but this accident not only compromised the safety, but also the credibility of the entire Maranello structure. And at the center of it all, Hamilton. A driver who had built his career on precision, technical sensitivity, and absolute trust in his machinery, now found himself trapped in a machine that was literally disintegrating at high speed. This was not a simple crash. It was a warning. A clear message that something is not working at Ferrari, and that Hamilton's dream of being champion with those in red could become a prolonged nightmare. Qualifying had not yet started, but the hardest blow had already been received, not by the car, but by the driver's morale. The tension that arose after Hamilton's accident did not dissipate as the hours passed. Quite the opposite. When the SF25 returned to the garage, a silent, meticulous, almost surgical autopsy began, with the Ferrari technical team trying to understand what had gone wrong. Cameras were blocked, panels closed, and team personnel avoided answering questions. But that reservation only fueled suspicion. Something serious had broken not only in the car, but in the trust between driver and team. What followed was an express reconstruction of the car. There were less than 3 hours left for qualifying. The Maranello staff worked under extreme pressure, changing the front suspension, overhauling the chassis, and even replacing several components of the steering system. Despite the effort, the car that returned to the track was a compromised version. An emergency assembly that did not guarantee stability or confidence. And so, Hamilton had to get back on the SF25. But this time, something had changed. This was not the same confident Lewis we have seen so many times emerge in the face of adversity. This time, his body language was different. The way he settled in the cockpit, how he avoided crossing glances with the engineers, how he didn't even perform an aggressive installation lap. Everything indicated a pilot emotionally disconnected from his work tool. Q1 was a perfect reflection of that emotional and technical abyss. From the first lap, Hamilton fought against a car that simply did not respond. Its layout was erratic, reaction times in medium curves were slow, and traction on exit was non-existent. The SF-25 seemed an extension of doubt, not talent. Subsequent telemetry would reveal that the car showed a loss of stability in the front axle every time prolonged lateral support was requested. The setup was not bad, but the car no longer transmitted anything. No balance, no security, no direction. Meanwhile, from the pit wall, the team analyzed without knowing how to intervene. The engineers did not communicate clearly. The instructions were basic, almost generic. And when he crossed the finish line setting the 16th fastest time, it was like a collective sigh of defeat. Lewis Hamilton out in Q1. Something that had not happened for years, and that in this context hurt much more. But the real blow was not media or even sports. It was internal. The disconnect between what Hamilton felt in the accident and Ferrari's official version was the real conflict. While the pilot clearly reported that something gave way, the team simply explained that it was an extreme episode of aerodynamic rebound, the famous bouncing. But the data didn't add up. The GS level recorded during the impact, the absence of previous signs of overload, and the pilot's own statement pointed to a structural failure. This technical disagreement became a political problem. Because if Ferrari minimizes a possible structural defect for image reasons, it puts not only the driver's safety at stake, but also confidence in its entire project. Hamilton, which has built its legacy around technical transparency and close collaboration with engineers, now finds itself at its breaking point. Can he commit to a team that questions his diagnosis? Can he bet his final cycle in F1 on a structure that prioritizes narrative control over technical truth? What happened in Abu Dhabi is not an isolated incident. It is the visible result of a deep fissure that threatens to reconfigure Ferrari's immediate future and, perhaps, Lewis Hamilton's ultimate legacy as a Formula One driver. Because behind the accident, the failed qualifying, and the technical confusion, there is an uncomfortable truth that everyone in the paddock has begun to whisper. The alliance between Ferrari and Hamilton could be more compromised than it appears. From that moment on, Hamilton's language has changed. In subsequent interviews, his tone was much more measured. There was a caution that is not common in him. He did not directly criticize the team, but he did not defend his version either. He limited himself to saying that it was a difficult day and that there are things to analyze. For someone who has won 7 world championships, those types of statements are more eloquent for what they keep quiet than for what they say. The other big question is the future. How to rebuild a damaged relationship at this level and in such a short time. The 2025 season is just beginning its final stage, and tensions that normally explode after years of friction are already being perceived. Hamilton has a contract, yes. But in modern Formula One, contracts are a dead letter in the face of loss of purpose. A driver like him is not in the category for money or visibility. It is by legacy. And if he feels that Ferrari cannot provide him with a machine worthy of that purpose, he will look at other options, or might even reconsider continuing beyond 2026. And it's not just a matter of what Hamilton wants. Ferrari is also facing an internal political storm. After the accident, several Italian media began to leak rumors about tensions between engineering departments and technical management. There are voices within the team who consider that the signing of Hamilton has unbalanced work dynamics. Others claim that not enough has been done to accommodate their driving style and feedback. This friction, if not managed well, can escalate to a management crisis. What happened in Abu Dhabi could mark a before and after, because it not only calls into question the structural integrity of the car, it calls into question the viability of a project that, on paper, seemed unbeatable, the best driver of his generation in the most legendary team in history. But Formula One is not one with headlines. It is one with trust, technical coherence, and shared vision. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.